We back, and as promised, I'm out here immediately after uploading the last video. We're gonna finish off our oil lines for our turbos. We had to get that video out, so I hope you guys understand. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. There's a bunch more funkiness to go on. We're gonna try and start it this week, so it might not be this video, it might be next video, but we're gonna try and get it started, so we must tackle these oil lines right now. Yeah, be fresh. I should probably shave the rest of my face. I've decided we're gonna mount our distribution blocks right here on the side of the intake manifolds. We'll just get a piece of angle iron, point them down, mount to this angle iron, one here and one here, and then they're gonna come up through the exhaust. I know it's gonna be a little bit warm, but it's gonna be better coming up through the middle than the outside and look dumb. Alrighty, we got our little things made and end here. We need to get some longer bolts for these. These aren't long enough. They're just like held on with 2 threads, so it's not really enough. But you can see that we're gonna go opposite sides just because the way the length of the lines are. We did clock the turbos just to move the middles up, but it's gonna be clocked individually afterwards. I mean, that probably would have been better for flow. And had I known they'd fit like this earlier, I probably would have done it like this, but now that we've already got it built, like, I don't know if I should redo it or not. I don't know if I have enough pipe to redo it, because I don't know if I have another straight piece of 3-inch. You can see that the oil lines come up. They're gonna work. If we have to build some sort of spacer system, then we will, but I think once we tighten down the tops and the bottoms, we should be able to zip tie a couple of them together, and they should fit where they want just by tightening down the fittings. So we've got oil up to the turbos, now we need to get it down from the turbos. And what we're gonna do is a little sketchy because the oil return fittings that I had originally bought were spaced out too far. The Amazon ad was super dumb, and they said 38 millimeters, but they meant about the oil feed, which they sell as a separate product. It's not even the same product that they sold me. And they were describing 2 products in one ad, on different ads. It's so dumb. Anyways, I ended up with 8 of these oil return fittings. Now the spacing between them is 48 millimeters. I need 38 millimeters, but even then the diameter of the hole is gonna be too big, so they're not gonna work. So I spent $160 on things that won't fit. So what I'm gonna do is a little bit sketchy here. I don't recommend doing it to anybody else, but because it's me and I don't really care, I'm gonna do it anyways.
Kyle's such a professional.
What I'm gonna do is I'm going to take one of our turbos here. I'm going to attempt to 3/8 tap this hole right here. I'm gonna use lots of grease so none of the shavings go inside the turbo. And then we're actually gonna put a 3/8 fitting inside of it, a steel one. And hopefully that works. We'll just get some copper silicone when we put them in, and honestly hope for the best. The worst that can happen is it doesn't work. We ruin the turbo and then we're out like an $80 turbo or whatever. So we'll attempt to just put some hard grease on our tap here to keep all the shavings off it. Not to keep the shavings off it, but to keep the shavings on the grease and not into the turbo. And we'll do our best to clean it afterwards. So we'll just rub that all across the threads and shit. And now the shaving should stay on the tap itself, hopefully. And we should probably not tap it down low, we should probably tap it at an angle. Like I said, I don't recommend doing this to anybody else, but because it's my stuff, I don't mind doing it. It's actually threading in. You know what, I'm just tinkering with this, and like so far it's working out pretty well. Seems to be like the perfect size that I wanted to be tapped. So we'll keep running the tap through it and see kind of what happens, but it's looking promising, maybe. Just for reference, this is how small the exhaust wheel is in this turbo. For anybody thinking if I'm going to be able to spool them or not. We got a decent amount of threads in there. It doesn't take much because it's all gravity drained anyways. Oh yeah, that's gonna work. It's just, you only need like 3 threads in this thing anyways because it's gravity. Usually it's just drained with a paper gasket in here anyways, so I think that's it. I think that's what we're gonna do. So we gotta do that 8 times and then I'll be back eventually probably. That was quite annoying. Put it back on the car again. What I'm about to do now, we're just gonna put some Teflon tape on our oil feed fittings. We might end up having to weld these fittings on the end because there is a O-ring on them. I don't trust it that much with oil. So we're just gonna put that together, put the turbos back on, and then run oil lines so we have oil right up to the feed of the turbos so we can focus on our return lines, and then that's it for oiling system. It sounds like it's not a lot, but it actually is. Yep, that's a whack load of lines. Got all our feed lines on. Obviously they can be adjusted and whatever and tied up, but for now it fits. If I was gonna do it again, I'd probably build some sort of stainless piece right across the top here that distributed down a bunch of times, but whatever. It is what it is. It looks kind of wacky, and you know, I think it adds to the build. All right, here's my plan put into action. You can see that this big bar slants at a 13-degree angle. These are cut at a 13-degree angle so they stick straight up. We're gonna cut a bunch more of these. Well, 3 more for this one. And you can see that we kind of made some ovaled out holes here. They're gonna correspond to those. I just did one just to test to see that if I could weld this thin of aluminum, because I think it's like 0.63 wall aluminum, which is kind of on the small side. Appears that I can do it. I'm gonna cut up a couple more, get them welded up, and that's gonna be our little distribution thing that goes here, and I'll show you it when it's done right now. And I lied. Our garbage cheap aluminum is welding exactly just like that, garbage cheap aluminum. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna recreate this again tomorrow in steel. So I'll have to make something tomorrow here out of steel. Just get some 1-inch and then some other not 1-inch. Alrighty, let's try and recreate this in steel. We bought some cheap steel, but I mean, this is a bit thicker wall because it's the same wall thickness, but in steel. But it's easier to weld thinner wall with steel than it is aluminum. So let's try this again. There we go, that should work. I still have to put like a 1-inch cap on the end on this side and then cut this side off at the desired length you want, but yep, pull it out of here. And then it should go something like this. It goes at a 13-degree angle, and because it's steel, I can actually probably weld it to the headers there. I know it's not going to be ideal, but we've got to put it somewhere. And then we should be able to run it right past this one right here, cut it off, and then run a hose straight into the top of the tank right there. As you guys know, most of his life's probably going to be at the track or at some sort of event or something, and its run time is probably going to be like a minute, just enough to like start it up, go to the line, do a burnout, go down to the end, come back. So I'm not too concerned about like oil cooling because, I mean, 6 liters of oil is going to take a while to get hot. And yeah, we're just hood rat like that anyways. I daily drive a Hellcat. I don't need to drive this on the street because the Hellcat's already stupid enough. Alrighty, we got it done. We got a cap on the end here. We're actually gonna mock it up with soda hose here. This stuff is clear, so we'd be able to see what kind of flow we're getting to each of our turbos, if there's any restrictions or anything like that. So we actually used to use this stuff back in like 2007 when we were turboing cars. I had a Ford Focus 1.9 liter, it was like a 1996. And I turboed it, and if you could find this stuff, this was the stuff you would use for oil return hose. So we're just gonna put this up here, cut our lengths. Yeah, essentially get it mocked up. All right, you can see what I mean here, how it just kind of drains down into this big one, and the big one's gonna just drain over to there. Our top hoses aren't actually tight yet because our clamps won't squeeze onto this hose very good without slipping and breaking. But you get the general idea here. So we have to make an identical one to this one, and then we have to put a bung here for a return, a bung there for a return, a bung here for a vent, and we might actually move this one to the bottom as well. Like I said, it might only be on D-cell that we starve the pump for oil, but I mean, I won't hurt just to put one in the bottom, I guess. All right, I went ahead and modified our tank a little bit. We put a vent here on the top. This is gonna go to our catch can. I welded 2 pieces of 1-inch pipe in the side. I was gonna tap them on the side here, but I didn't have a drill bit big enough to tap. So I ended up just welding 2 pieces of aluminum there. And that's gonna be our returns. This one's a little bit off center, don't mind that. And then the back one, I'm gonna have to plug that one, but I did put another one in the bottom there. And that needs a 90-degree fitting. So I need a plug here and a 90 here, but we can put this on and this will be good enough to test with now. Okay, so now we have oil to the turbos right now. If we fire up this pump, you would see oil come out the drains and just go on the floor. But what we have to do now is make an identical piece to this one, so we can put it on the opposite side, and then both of those will drain back in the tank, and then we'll have a full system. Finally. Seems like I've been doing this forever. And Virginia would talk with a lisp and be like, I'm a professional right now.
Kyle's such a professional.
Yeah, keep grinding, I guess. Got a little bit of a headache, so I might as well have some more caffeine, because that's definitely the cure to a headache. Oh yeah. If you want to send me some of these, my PO box is down below. Okay, here's our identical piece. So what we're gonna end up doing is I'm just gonna use some of this 5/8 heater hose because it'll stretch over these 3/8 things. What I gotta do is I gotta get some steel 5/8 barbs to weld onto these as well. That way we can use it. But I'm just gonna use this heater hose for now. It's gonna be fine for what we're testing. The other hose wouldn't crush with the clamps that I have, so this is it, just to test it out. And so put our lengths on, put it in the car, join it up, and then we can fire up our pump to see if we got oil pressure. But I don't have an oil pressure gauge. We'll just see if there's flow. Well, that's it. I mean, the ugly red hose is stupid ricer, but I mean, I used what I had. We will put an oil filter in it. I'm gonna do that eventually. But right now we can fill it up as long as I like cover this one off right here and test it out anyways. This is our returns. They just drop down into our rails right there that are pointed downwards. They swoop back in. These might have to be adjusted lengthwise. This isn't gonna be the hose that's gonna be on there. This is just for testing purposes to see if this works. Because there's no point putting in too much work if it doesn't work. So I'm gonna fill it up and then we'll get the 12 volts on it and see if it works. Just using some random leftover oil we have laying around. This is 1040, whatever GTX was on sale at Canadian Tire when I bought it. Okay, so currently it's probably an inch off the bottom, so up to here somewhere. I'm probably gonna need a little bit more than that. And we have some 5W40, whatever was on sale formula from Canadian Tire as well. We'll just put this battery right here. We reach. Almost. It's draining out of the tank for sure. Oh, I can see it coming out of the return lines. Well, there's a lot coming out of the return lines. I don't see any leaks either. See if I can get the camera in there now for you. You can see it pouring down the wall. How am I gonna do this? I'll do my best to show you. I'll get my flashlight out too. See that oil pouring over the side there? You can't see it, it's so dumb. This camera sucks. Oh, maybe there. Anyways, you gotta take my word for it that there's a bit of oil coming out of that thing. Maybe what I can do, no, because it'd be too high. I was gonna take this off and put it in here, but no, we definitely have significant oil flow through that right there, and the oil is still cold. So as it heats up, we'll get more flow because it'll be thinner. What I should do though is I should somehow get a pressure sensor on this oil system to see kind of what pressures we're running right now. But that's a big relief because I was curious how we're gonna oil it. You know what? I had the video done and edited, but we're gonna go ahead and take this video one step further. We're actually gonna take our pressure sensor from our fuel. We're gonna put it into our rail there, and then we'll be able to tell oil pressure from the fuel pressure sensor in the Holly. So that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna move the sensor that's in the fuel pressure right now into the oil. We're gonna test and see how much pressure we have at the manifold. And if it's anything above like 5 PSI probably, I'll be satisfied because like as long as we got oil up there, I'm not too concerned. We can blow them up, I don't care. And I don't wanna say I nailed it, but I nailed it. Actually, I really hope our thick sensor is gonna fit. You know what we should do? We should just take another cheap sensor that we have. Actually, you know what works even easier? A mechanical gauge. I don't know if it's gonna fit in there though, because the size of the fitting there. Yeah. And our 100 PSI sensor doesn't fit in there either, because the lines are too big. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna take the plug that was in the end of the rail here, we're just gonna drill and tap the center of it, and that's what we're gonna thread our pressure sensor into, this plug in the end of the rail there. This is just some cheap Amazon 100 PSI sensor, but it's gonna be fine. It's like $13, but as long as it gives us a reading, and these are usually off by a couple percent, like 3% or something, but a reading is better than no reading. So remember, 13 bucks for a reading is better than none. So ironically enough, the oil pressure sensor in the car is actually down in the head down here. So we just took the harness from that, we plugged it into this, and now we should be able to read the car's oil pressure to get whatever pressure's in this manifold. We have power? No. Yeah. Whack that switch. Got the battery charger hooked up to it. I brought my laptop out. I'm not sure if I'm going to need it. Oil pressure's right there, so if we go turn our pump on and come back, stay there, battery, please. Pump is on. $53 pounds of oil pressure. That's what we have flowing through our turbos right now. And that's at the end of the rail, so 53 pounds is going into each line. So our pump is actually moving enough volume to put 50 PSI to the end of each one of these lines here. And yeah, it's reflected by the flow in the tank because I wish I could take that hose off. Maybe we'll try and take that hose off for a second and we'll just pour it back in here. Put it right there and hope for the best. Come on, gravity, do your thing. You can see the amount of fluid coming through there. It's actually a significant amount. So I think we're good on our draining system here. And there you have it, folks. That's our oiling system done in the car. We can move on to making the next 2 runners over here. That's what we're going to be doing next episode. Make those 2 runners, weld up the manifolds completely, bolt it all back together, and then we can test fire it because we'll have complete systems everywhere. We'll get the oiling system checked, and we got the manifolds on checked. So we shouldn't ruin anything. We won't have any intercooler piping on yet, and none of the exhausts up on like this section will be fully welded up, or the wastegates won't be on, but we'll be able to get an idea of what it's going to sound like. And just like advertised on our pump, it's at 50 psi. 50 psi right here. There must be an internal regulation in this pump. I'm not sure, but it flows well. And that's on unregulated 12 volts. This might be like 11, so it might actually spin a little bit harder than that. You might have to put some sort of bypass valve in it so it doesn't make too much pressure. But that's a win in my books. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. You're not going to want to miss it. We're just about 100,000 subscribers. Peace easy and get that V.